Good afternoon, everybody. So today we'll start from the for the first order and second order system once again. So the last time where we stopped is basically at the ramp response, and today we will cover the sinusoidal response for the first order system. So let's see, or let's recall that how do you write the sinusoidal signal? It's basically is given by this one, and if you take the Laplace transform, it will give you okay. And the first order system, what we have is given by this k over tau is plus 1. So now to compute the response of the system, I need to use the basic simple equations what we have seen last time. Okay. So proceeding further with the partial fractions, I will have so this would be my ys. To compute the function in time domain, I need to take the Laplace inverse of the above equation, and I would have y of t. It's a long expression. Let me write over at the bottom at the top of the board. Okay, this is what I obtained once I applied a sinusoidal input to a first order system. So here you will note two interesting points where this is just the magnitude. The first part is this one and the second part is this one. Here this first one is generally called the transients, and this part gives the periodic response because of what? The cos and the sine function. And why I call it the transients? Because the effect of this part you will experience only at time t is equal to 0. Once t tends to infinity, this will die out because of this part. Okay, and the rest of the periodic response you obtain for the first order system by this part, what we call the ultimate periodic response. Okay, or if I simplify it further to make a clear distinction between the UPR and the transients, and this simplification is just based on the basic trigonometric identities. Okay, so these are the two similar basic facts which we have discussed so far with the sinusoidal response of the first order system. Basically, we have two basic parameters in which we are really interested. One is called the amplitude ratio, and another one is the phase angle. Okay, amplitude ratio is given by this quantity, and this is what is defined the phase, and given by tan inverse omega t. Okay, now moving to the next topic is what we have, the response of integrating processes. So what do you understand by the integrating processes, and from where do we obtain the integrating systems? So let's assume we have a liquid level storage process, which is a very basic simple process in process industries, where you have a level input or the flow rate given by Qi. you need to maintain a certain height in the tank, and you have an outflow also given by this Q. Okay, so if I write the differential equation for this system, I would have and it is based on the simple energy balances equations, where this is the inflow and this is the outflow. Okay, I know that the volume is given by the multiplication of the area and the height of the level in the tank, where height would where the area would going to remain the constant. So this would be, okay. Now moving at now starting the same analysis what we did at the beginning of this lecture, I would compute what will happen at steady state. So at steady state, I would know that this quantity will go to 0. Okay, and I would have 0, and these present at the steady state. So now if I subtract this equation from this one, I would have, okay, where all the dash variables represent the difference between the Qi and their steady state. The variables and their steady state. For here, the steady state of height would of course going to be 0 once you take the differential. Now I will take the Laplace transform of this equation. Simplifying it further to make a transfer function, I would have now here, and what does it signifies? It signifies, if we speak about the control, which is our final aim, that I have the degree of freedom 2 to maintain the height of the tank or the level of the tank at a certain level. So let's say if I choose this input variable as my control input or the manipulated variable, this variable will automatically become the disturbance variable. Okay, I denote the manipulated variable by U. So this is just the classification of the variables, but here our interest lies that how this system is an integrating system. So are you able to see that how this system is integrating system? Here I have two transfer functions because I have two input variables and only one output variable, and the relationship would be, I will denote it by H1 dash and H2 dash. and the difference of these two equations will give you this one. Okay, so the integrating process means that the relationship between the input and output governs by a factor 1 over s. Okay, so this is the integrator. So there are certain characteristics associated with this integrating processes. The very first one is the pure capacity system. Why? Think for think for this, that why these systems are called the pure capacitive systems, because they hold the energy. Why? Because of this integrator. Integrating process do not have a steady state gain in the usual sense. Why? What do you mean by the steady state gain? So let's say, uh, if I draw this figure, if I draw a signal, and this I call the steady state value of some system YSS. This is time. Okay. So what will happen when we speak about the steady state gain, that at t is equal to infinity, the system will finally stay at the steady state value. But with this case, when we have the integrator, the system just will go like this. Okay, this is what written in the third point. For such a process operating at steady state, any positive change in input will cause the output to increase linearly or vice versa. So if I want to generalize this system, or let's see how the generalization looks like. Normally this is how we represent the first order system in dynamical and differential equations. Okay, so if I want to see this system as just an integrator system, this variable will go to 0, and in this way I would have, okay, and another interesting thing, if I generalize it more in the sense of having time constant and the steady state gain of the system for this system or for this equation, so this would be my first order system in the sense what we have seen so far, where tau is the ratio of A1 over A naught and K is B over A naught. So here you will see that the ratio of K and tau, is constant, but individually it will go to infinity, it will also go to infinity, but the ratio of this will going to stay constant, and this will go to infinity because of what? Because of A naught, which is 0 in the case of integrating systems. Okay, so this is all about the integrating system. Now you can do the same analysis for such kind of system by putting the step response, or let's say if I have this in this. Okay, okay, so these are the responses for the integrating system. You can derive them easily in the same way what we have done so far for the first order system, that if you apply a step input, okay, you will see that this response of the integrating system will increase linearly with the time. If you have a rectangular pulse, you will see an initial linearly increment in the system, but afterward it will going to stay constant. Why? because if you see the rectangular system, the pulse, it is like this. So until it receives a step input, it will increase linearly. If I draw the with white, okay, and afterward it becomes zero. The input, the output will going to remain the same. This is my y. This is my u. Okay. So the similar kind of behavior you would going to experience with the impulse response, and finally we have the rep response. Okay. So for the ramp response, it will stay to zero for a couple of in the initial stages, and afterwards it will also going to increase at a higher pace. Why? Because your input is itself a ramp input. Okay. Now moving to the second order system. So in the process industries or in any applications, you will see two types of second order system. Either these two systems are interacting, or let's say the first two order systems are interacting, or the first two order systems are non-interacting. And why I'm speaking only about the first order system? Because if you see the general form of the second order system, it would be like this: tau 1 s plus 1 from let's say y1, from u1 to y1. Another system is y2, u2. If I put these two systems in a cascaded manner, in that case my u2 will become is equal to y2, and I would be having a transfer function from u1 to y2, the overall transfer function. And the response or the system you would be having at the last is a second order system, in the sense that the maximum power of s is 2. You just need to multiply those two systems, and the in the numerator you will have the s square sum. Okay. So this is the practical scenario where you see the system is a non-interaction system, in the sense that you have this one tank, which we have seen that this is a first order system. Okay. There's another tank which is also a first order system. So non-interacting in the sense that these systems, they do not interact among themselves. Either there is a flow from tank 1 to tank 2, or tank 2 to tank 1. There's only a one directional flow. Okay. Here in this case we have the flow only in this direction. Okay. So let's see how do we obtain the transfer function for this non-interacting system, and then we would proceed with the responses with respect to different inputs. Okay. For tank 1, the differential equation is given by a1 okay, and for tank 2, where in the figure f1 is given by c1h1. Okay. So as you will notice, this these two are the first order system. I could make a generalized form in terms of steady state gain and the time constant to visualize better that how it will going to behave with respect to their individual time constants. So let me write this one first, where tau 1 is equal to A1 over C1 and K1 is 1 over C1. And for this one, with the different time constant and different steady state gain, it is given by this one, where tau 2 is A2 over C2 and K2 is C1 over C2. Okay. So the idea behind deriving this process models or the first order and second order is to make you understand that even before putting any input to the system, you could easily visualize, if you have the time, if you have the knowledge about the time constant and the steady state gain, that how the system will going to behave and what are the practicalities, that from where do we obtain this first order system or second order system, or what do we mean actually. Okay, these are all just the physical processes where we approximate the system in the sense that we could visualize the effects of the input and output. Okay, and then based on this input output variables, we can design our controller, which is the final aim of the control system design. Okay, so now proceeding further in the same way we have done so far, taking the Laplace transform. Okay, I won't rub this. Okay, if I take the Laplace transform of this one, of course by subtracting the initial the steady state gains, I would be having a system like, and for this one y2. Okay, so this is it is interesting to note that we obtain the same transfer functions what we were discussing in the beginning, that how do you obtain the second order systems. Okay, so either we can proceed further with these differential equations, or either we could proceed with these transfer functions to get the overall idea of how the system will going to look like. So if I combine the last two differential equations, the final differential equations would be, and the idea behind doing the more simplification for the second order system is to see the same kind of parameters what we have seen in the first order system, that in the first order system we have the time constant and another one is the steady state gain. So we want to first of all see and analyze by deriving the transfer functions, that what are the parameters which would affect the time domain analysis of the system. Okay, So simplifying it more further, I would get okay. So this will render a relationship between the y2 over u of s, which would be what? k1 k2 okay. And it is nothing, it's just the multiplication of the two first order system, which is k1 of 1s plus 1. Now after seeing this, that how the non-interacting second order system looks like, we can proceed further to see the response of the system with respect to different inputs. So before doing any mathematical stuff, just try to think or analyze that since it's just the multiplication of two first order system, how the overall system would going to behave. I'm just drawing the step responses even without doing any mathematical derivation. Okay, let's see. So I have two transfer function of time constants tau 1 and tau 2. Okay, so if you see this system tank 1, okay, and this is tau 2 is for tank 2. Okay, so this is the next slide, that how the time constant of these two systems will going to behave. That the tank 1 responds to the input quite quickly than the tank 2. Why? Because first of all, there is no interaction between the tank 1 and tank 2. Whatever the change will going to occur in the tank 2 will reflect at later stages. Makes sense? Okay. Now we can see the unit step response for this non-interacting system. This is the transfer function to me. This is the unit step response. So my input would be what? 1 over s. Okay. So I will not go into detail by doing the similar procedure, doing the partial fraction and then taking the Laplace inverse. I will write directly the final expression for this. Okay. You can do this by yourself. But the interesting thing to notice here is that you will have two responses depending on the what are your tau 1 and tau 2. Why? There might be a case that the two tanks are having the same time constants, right? So the one condition would occur where we have the same time constant, and the second that the time constants are different. Okay. So for this case, I would have y2 of t equal k times this whole expression in the bracket And for this one, I would have now the next factor comes the inherent reluctance. What we have also seen for the first order system, the inherent reluctance will also be computed by the similar formula what we use in the for the first order system. It is given by, okay. So the inherent reluctance gives you the idea that how the process output is reluctant to respond to the change in input. Okay, and this would be given by, okay, for the case when we have tau 1 is not equal to tau 2. So if I compute this integral, the final output would be tau 1 plus tau 2, and I denote this by J2, inherent reluctance for the second order system. If you recall from the previous from the last session that the J1, which is the inherent reluctance for the first order system, was given by k tau. So what you notice that the second order system are more reluctant to respond to a change in the process input. So there are some characteristics associated with the two first order system in the series, which is basically a non-interacting second order system, that you experience a sigmoidal response in this way, and also that the differential at this point, which is at t is equal to 0, is 0. We will see that how these small things comes into play to affect to design the controller. Okay. Now the case of two interacting tanks in series. And why is it called the interacting tanks? Because we have a valve, a mechanical valve associated with both the tanks, which regulates the flow. Now the interaction either could happen in this direction, or the water could flow either in this direction. So there is a kind of exchange of or the liquid from both the tanks. Okay. So let's start with analyzing the interacting second order system. Similarly, for getting the differential equation for both the tanks, for the tank 1 it is given by, and for tank 2, okay, and these F0, F1, F2 are the flows already mentioned in the figures, but here the values will going to change, or the expression, because earlier we have seen that F1 was given by only C1 of H1 in the case of non-interacting system. Let's represent them by NIS. Okay, but here in this case F1 will be given by C1 of H1 minus H2. Okay, But for the F2, it will going to remain the same because there's only an output flow. So if I combine all these equations, I would have okay for both the tanks, for tank 1 and for tank 2. Okay. Finally, simplifying these two equations and putting them in terms of transfer functions, I would have so what difference you have noticed in this transfer function, that is for the interacting system, and that for the transfer function we obtained for the non-interacting system is this additional term in the denominator. Okay. Which you will, and the effect of this additional term you will notice once we start analyzing this with respect to different inputs for this second order system. Okay. So to analyze the step response, my US would be some constant A over S. So YS in that case will become tau square multiplied by S square plus 2 zeta, sorry, xi tau S plus 1 into A of S. Where here you will notice that tau is simply under root of tau 1 and tau 2. Okay. And this 2 zeta tau is this whole quantity, and whatever the gain of the system is remains similar. Okay. So whenever you are asked to represent a second order system, this is the most general form where you have a clear distinction between the gain, the tau, and the xi. Okay. So before proceeding further to go into much more in detail mathematics, this the problem third A part only we will see later for the B and C part. Okay. Okay. Continue with the problem. So I hope that most of you are able to solve this simple problem. So just to discuss a bit about this problem, whoever has tried, uh, we would be starting from here. So I would write at the bottom. So I can write this equation, okay, in this form. Okay. So I hope it is clear from the very beginning that our H is the output and P is the input of the system. Okay, where A is, so if you now compare these two equations, where this one is our P dash, okay, I'm just comparing these two equations where my K would be is equivalent to C over B, tau square is equal to 1 over B, okay, this part, and 2Z tau is equal to A by B. Okay, so I would have my tau is equal to, okay, so this is the solution for this problem, and the rest of the parts we'll see later on. Okay, now proceeding further with the unit step response of the second order system, I could put the function in terms of poles. Poles is what you define the roots of the denominator. Okay, where R1 and R2 are the roots, and the values would be, okay. So if I have a system in this form, I could directly take the, or I could directly write the general result in the time domain by taking the Laplace inverse and doing the partial fraction, and it would be, where we need to compute this A0, A1 and A2. So if you give an attention to these roots, okay, which form the basis of this transfer function, that it highly depend on the value of xi and tau. So we'll consider three different cases for z, because z is the most dominating factor in knowing the values of R1 and R2. Why only these three cases are considered? Because let's say if you have z, or let me write this R1 R2 here. Now pay attention to this roots for different values of z. 0 and 1 is under root will give you the complex conjugate roots, okay, because this value would be negative. And if you have zeta, or let's say we write here for the first case, complex conjugate roots, for zeta is greater than 1, real and distinct roots. These analyses are basically from your first year mathematics course. And if you have zeta equal to 1, then this vector will go to 0 and you will be having repeated roots. Okay. Now think what will happen if z is less than 0. And in between, okay, let's consider the d case -1 and the e case z is less than -1. Think for these two cases also. This question will be in your assignment as well, that we have considered the three cases ABC. What will happen if we have these two additional cases? Okay, consider this as your assignment. Okay, now proceeding further with the case A, I will write directly the time domain signal, and it would be where beta is okay. So now try to see what will going to happen if with this exponential thing and with this sinusoidal part. Since they are in multiplication, it is sure that the response of the system would be sinusoidal, but it would be a damped response, damped sinusoidal. Okay, and of course the damping is provided by this vector. And since we have the sinusoidal part and the damping, the response is going to settle ultimately at the steady state at AK, meaning that as t tends to infinity, we have yt tends to AK. Okay, for part B, we cannot use a or let's say for yes, for part B, we would have the roots okay. In that case yt would be given by okay. So generally in this the ultimate value that is AK because of this damping, but this system is also called the over damped system. Okay, we will see the graphs Afterwards, we have the relationship for the signal for the case z is equal to 1. For z is equal to 1, I would have the repeated roots, and I cannot use the same general form what we have seen earlier in terms of coefficients a naught, a1, a2. So I need to derive it accordingly. In that case, y of s would be given by, okay, this is for the case xi is equal to 1. So here you will notice that we don't have any sinusoidal or cosine terms. So the system won't be having any oscillations. Now think of another case where I have xi is equal to 0. So we had how many parts? A, B, C. E was -1, and F is this one. Okay. So these two are in your assignments. For this part, it is very forward case. That for xi is equal to 0, we won't be having any damping. For xi is equal to 0, both the roots will go to 0, and the final expression for the time domain signal yt will be pure oscillatory behavior. Okay, no, without any damping or decaying. So there are certain properties associated with the underdamped response. Now we are going to see what are those properties of the underdamped response. Okay, these are the time dependent representations of all the expressions what we have derived here. That for the overdamped system, there won't be any oscillations, and the system will take much time to go to the final value. For the underdamped response, there are some oscillation, but they are decaying oscillations. And for the critically damped system, which is given when we have the case of xi is equal to 1, the system will also won't have any oscillations. So before proceeding towards seeing the characteristics of the underdamped response, so these are some of the physical examples of the second order system, where in one case, for what we have derived, we analyze the two tanks in series, either they are interacting or non-interacting. Some of the examples are if you start analyzing the YouTube manometer, and I think basically what we have done as one of the problems is the differential equation of the YouTube manometer. And another example is the spring shock absorber system, which you basically finds in the motor cars. So all these systems are the second order system. And for okay, I am coming on to this the response curve for underdamped system. Let me finish with this the examples. Okay, just some practical examples. So the idea behind, like I said, in analyzing the systems is to see how they are going to behave, since these are all practical systems and we try to approximate. And the idea behind analyzing is to compute the parameters k, tau, and z such that I can expect my physical system to behave in the sense what I want it to. Okay, so this would be the response for the underdamped system. And if you have noted down the equation for the underdamped system, we have a multiplication of exponential term, the decaying exponential term, and a sinusoidal term. And because of this multiplication, we observe this kind of behavior where the system goes above the steady state value and finally it settles down at the steady state value after making some oscillations. And this is the behavior which we really wanted to control from the control theoretic point of view. So the characteristics associated with this underdamped response are first of all the rise time. Okay, let me draw the underdamped response. This is the response of the system for a step input. Okay. So the rise time defined the time taken by the signal yt to reach to the steady state value. This is the rise time tr. Okay. And this is given by, so if you want to, or let's say if you want to compute tr, you need to put in the equation yt is equal to ak, and after the computation you would get tr this one. Okay. Now comes the overshoot, second one. The overshoot says the maximum value reached by the output of the system. From the steady state value, from this one. So you can also compute this value by putting this maximizing this function and then finally computing the magnitude of the response. So Ymax, I write the direct equation for the Ymax is given by this AK. This is the value of Ymax, and the overshoot given by okay. Now the third characteristics is the period of oscillation, and it is given by this the time it takes. You need to compute first the time it takes from here to move here. Then you compute the frequency of this. The fourth characteristic is the decay ratio, and the decay ratio is given by you compute this value A2, or let's say I denote this value by A2, whatever the value is. I compute this value A1, and then I take the ratio A2 over A1. Now the last one is the settling time. Settling time is basically a somewhat arbitrary quantity in the sense, basically it depends on the desired specification of the system you for which you want to design the control. But the general definition or the most accepted definition for the settling time is given by that First of all, define these two bands, or let me use a different color, or let's say I put this. Okay, it is around this line. Okay, I take either plus 5% or take minus 5%. So I want my final value of the output to stay between this zone, and the time it takes to reach to this band is called the settling time. Okay. Now the questions: can you correlate a real-time situation of a plant to critical damping so that its significance becomes more clear? So when you talk about the practical plant, okay, let's say consider the scenario, okay, or so the practical scenario you can see that what we want for the underdamped system, or for the sorry for the critical damping system, is that the value of z should be equal to 1. So if you see in this spring shock absorber system, your z is given by the square root of c square over 4 mk. Okay, this by this value. Okay, so if you design the parameters of your system, because c, m, and k are all the parameters of your system. Okay, so if you design all these this parameter in the sense that you get the z is equal to 1, then for sure your system would behave in a critical damping fashion. Okay, another question is why step input is only used for all the damping? Because it is one of the standardized input. First of all, also you could use another input, you could use impulse response system, but the visualization you observe for all these parameters is looks significant if you take the step response. Okay, it is no hard and fast rule that you only need to use the step response. You could take the impulse or rectangular pulse system response. Okay, or in other words, there was another question from GCT, or in other words, what is the significance of keeping damping and unity? The significance from the practical point of view. Okay, I have this system already, the figure already drawn here. This is for the underdamped response. Okay, if you say why I want this system to behave like this always, because I don't want these transients. I want my system to reach from initial value to the final value smoothly. Okay, because these transients cause problem to the physical plant. Okay, so just consider a scenario: you are having a uh, what spring shock absorber system. Okay, what you want whenever you feel some jerk, okay, you wanted to move from one place to another in a very smoothly way. You don't want oscillations to settle down. Okay, so why zeta will come in a second order system? You could assign it by another variable. You see, because in the first order system there were no case of damping. Whenever we see the response of the system, either we see the unit step or the impulse response, there were no sinusoidal terms which causes the oscillations. But it is the inherent property of the second order system. We generally experience the oscillations, and these oscillations are basically defined by the damping factor. Why sinusoidal signal is not considered the test signal in control system? First of all, you need to define that what do you mean by the test signal. Okay, what do you really want to test? If you just want to analyze the dynamics, okay, you could use a sinusoidal signal, there is no problem, but the analyzation would be much more difficult. Why we take the step response? Because the input is subtle, and if we take the transfer function and compute the time domain signal, okay, it is easy to analyze. Okay, what should be the zeta value for a robotic control system? Okay, this is asking a very, for me this is a very superficial question, that what should be the zeta value. It depends on what kind of robotic system you have. Okay, like we have the freedom here in the spring shocker system. to choose a parameter in the sense that we could have a desired value of zeta just for the open loop, not even without any having any interference from the controller. Okay. So I see a lot of questions are coming from PECPY. If we can we have the video chat directly with them? Why 5% is considered for computing settling time? Well, this is what I said, that it just arbitrary country. It depends on basically the control engineer, that what band he wants to fix for a system. The most general accepted definition is this one, but there is no hard and fast rule that you could stick to this definition only. Okay. As you were asking that only step response was considered the standard, or let's say why the step input was considered standard input signal to analyze the second order system. So what we can do very quickly, we could see the impulse response, and then you analyze that which response gives you more information or the ease. The impulse response signal is given by this A of delta t. So consider the case 1 where we have xi is less than 1. You would have yt. I'm writing directly the expression, okay, but you can compute by yourself. Okay. For case 2 we have okay. So now this is a homework for you. We have seen that how the step response to the signal looks like. Now this is the step, the impulse input. You have these three expressions. Plot and compare that how the response of the impulse input looks like. Where there's a question, how zeta value can be less than 0? How will be the output response curve? So this is the part of your assignment. First of all, whether is it possible? If is it possible, then what would be the response of the system? Think wisely on this. That whether is it possible or not. Why zeta value is taken between 0 to 1 for practical system? Like I said, that this is an inherent property of the system. Okay, you could design your own system, or let's say your own plant, in the sense that you could have the zeta is equal to 1. Okay, but this is the inherent property. So let's say if you have this spring mass system, okay, once the parameters are fixed, okay, you would have some certain value of zeta. And why do we want only the underdamped system? Because we have the flexibility. Because we have the flexibility to either behave the overall system as a critically damped system or an overdamped system, or let it stay just the underdamped system. But we don't have this flexibility with the overdamped system. Okay, that's why most of the practical systems are underdamped systems. Okay, so like I also mentioned this into the slides, that the dynamic behavior of many systems under feedback control is very similar to the underdamped second order response. So we will going to see this design of feedback control system in the topic 2, which I think we'll cover in April. Yes, RCP ITMH.
Yes, sir. Why the response becomes slower if the value of zeta increases in case of overdamped system?
Can you just repeat your question?
Why the response becomes slower if the value of zeta increases in case of overtime system.
Why the response of the system, why the system becomes slower? This is what you want to ask?
Yes.
Okay, so this is quite natural. If you have pay attention to the slides, we have seen that for the overtime system, the, the response of the system is like this, okay, which either you could generalize it to a first order system with a large time constant. So what we have seen in the first order system, that if you have a large time constant, your system is already very slow in responding to the change in input. Okay, so similarly, the same kind of behavior we observed in the overtime system. Okay,
So,
okay. Do you have any more questions to ask?
no, sir. No, no.
Okay, okay. So if all the questions and interactions are over, possibly we could stop the lecture today, and we'll proceed from here only in the next session. Okay, thank you.